the BBC's traditional objection to having a subscription model, which is basically, we don't think that many people would pay for it, which in itself is a justification for getting rid of the license fee, right? Even forcing people to pay for something they don't want.
The idea that he is going to waltz in and somehow, because of vibes, it's just all magically going to be better. I mean, look, maybe that would have worked 30 odd years ago, but that's part of the thing. He does seem to be a politician of a different era.
It's just endless. It's the same people, and it's the same modus operandi, and they're always wrong. They always say, oh, this isn't going to have a negative effect. This isn't going to lead to like shop closures and people losing their jobs. And it always does, and it's obvious it's going to do that. And between you and me, that's probably what they want.
Hello and welcome back to Last Orders. I'm Tom Slater, editor of Spiked, joined as I am in every single episode by Chris Snowdon from the IEA. How are you doing, Chris?
Hi, Tom. Good to know that you're not tired of me yet.
Not in the slightest. And you know who we're certainly not tired of? One of our favourite returning guests, Benedict Spence. How are you doing, Benedict?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
I'm very well. So we've got a lot to talk about today, but I think we should start with Andy Burnham. It's obviously the talk of the town. There is some nanny state implications to him potentially, almost certainly becoming Labour leader and Prime Minister in short order. But just thought it'd be worth, given the fact that he's given his big set piece speech this week, Ben, in which he didn't talk about a hell of a lot. I thought I'd talk about hope and change and growth in every postcode and what have you. But what have you made of his irresistible rise to the top of politics?
It's actually just very bizarre. And I think it's a sign of quite how mentally frayed we all are with politics, that it hasn't made more of an impact. The fact that this man who was not an MP was given, I was about to say, is given an easy ride. He had to work to find one eventually, but was effectively just given a free pass by the party that had given up on its own leader to go, all right, come and have a crack at it. Nobody else is standing against him. The idea that this is possible, that you can just waltz in, I understand that that's completely within the rules of the game, but in any other set of circumstances, I think we would all be sat here going, this is really odd that this has just happened. There has been even less scrutiny of him than there was of Keir Starmer before the last general election, and very least at the last election, nobody scrutinised Labour because they were going, yeah, but we could just kick the Tories and that's a lot more fun, frankly, and you'll sell more newspapers doing it. So that you've got Andy Burnham waltzing in, he's not said anything really in the build-up. Now that he's sort of the anointed one, he's not, as you say, really saying anything else. And I kind of just find myself sitting here going, well, on the one hand, this is nice because it's giving me a bit of a break from having to think about anything, because he's not making me think. The whole thing is just completely brainless. The idea that he is going to waltz in and somehow, because of vibes, it's just all magically going to be better. I mean, look, maybe that would have worked 30 odd years ago, but that's part of the thing. He does seem to be a politician of a different era. Even the sort of the cool vibes are actually incredibly out of date and in no way relevant. And you aren't just sort of sat there going, this is very much your father's Labour Party. This is an iteration of the party that has long since gone out of fashion. And if this really is the best that we've got, I mean, even the comebacks that we've got going on, at the very least with the Tories at the end, Cameron had been out for a while and they brought him back. But now it's just people that were kicked out 18 months ago of the front benches. Louis Hayes is making a comeback, and Angela Rayner might be making a comeback. And you're thinking, well, we only just shipped them out because they were rubbish. But now they are the great sort of intellectual powerhouses coming back. And it just makes you sit there and go, is this really the best that we've got going for us right now? But yeah, the answer is yes, that is the best that we have.
It is all about vibes, and it's also such cringe vibes as well. He's a sort of just a Radio 6 music dad, effectively. But that seems to work for some people, I suppose, gives them a bit of a warm feeling. But I think you're right to say it's your father's Labour Party rather than your grandfather's Labour Party, as you were. It's just kind of stuck in the 90s, and dining out on old political glories as well as banging on about the Hacienda seems to be the order of the day, Chris. Yeah, that's Smith's reference.
I'm looking forward to Morrissey inevitably writing some savage blog post about how much he hates Andy Burnham.
He should.
That would break his heart. A lot of things are going to break his heart. This is the thing. I mean, they say all political careers end in failure, but I've never been so confident a political career will end in failure than Andy Burnham. I think everyone kind of knows it. It's going to be awful for him, and I kind of feel sorry for him because he doesn't seem to know what's coming. Because he's a little puppy dog eyes, and he's just going to get torn to pieces by the media, by his backbenchers sooner or later, by the opposition party, by everyone. Everyone's going to hate him. And it's not even his fault, really, that everyone's going to hate him, because everyone hates every Prime Minister. Every Prime Minister is less popular than the last for no obvious reason. It's like, I don't like Rishi Sunak for various fairly specific reasons, I don't really understand why everybody else hated him to the extent that they do. And I certainly don't understand why they hate Keir Starmer as much as they apparently do. Because, again, no fan of Keir Starmer, but he did everything people wanted, according to YouGov, who basically run the country. 2,000 basement dwellers who have a YouGov account run the country, plus Mumsnet. He did everything that these people wanted, and every time he proposed something that they didn't like, he'd do a U-turn on it. And yet they still absolutely hated him. They announced the social media ban for the under-16s literally 7 days before standing on the same platform saying, okay, the gig is up, I'm gonna resign. That was tremendously popular. It didn't make any difference. None of this stuff does. So no matter what you do, it seems that the public are going to hate you because the public don't really know what they want. They just have this kind of incoherent rage.
Well, I think like policy by policy, obviously certain things can be very popular, but if you think about the two big issues in terms of polling every single time, it's like cost of living and immigration, and those two sort of jostle for position. On both of those fronts, no one ever thought Keir Starmer was going to get a grip on either of those things. And I think maybe that's one of the things that feeds the anger, is that if you bring back the Labour Party, if you elect this technocrat on the idea that he was just going to be, by sheer boringness and competence, would get a grip on the fundamental issues. The fact that he hasn't, whilst he continues to kind of peacock around and acts like a prime minister, I suppose, is part of the anger. But I do think you're right.
Not going to get grips to these things either.
Exactly.
And does anyone really think he will?
A large part of the problem with Starmer is it didn't matter if he wanted to be a competent technocrat, because he is attached to a party that won't let him be. And this is also Kemi Badenoch's problem, which is everybody going, the Kemi bounce, she's doing very well, personal polling is great. It doesn't matter. Look at the party that she's chained at the ankle to that is still dragging her to the depths of hell. Those are the two options that you have, which is the backbenchers, the members. And you must be said, in some ways, I'm very grateful that the Labour Party hasn't subjected us to a leadership contest, because actually, if you give the members the option, well, then you get the Liz Trusses and the Jeremy Corbyns of the world. It gets a lot worse. You think it can't get any worse, it can always get a lot worse. Burnham, he was never meant to be in this position. I don't think anybody thought it would unravel for Starmer as quickly as it has, because on some level I think people thought there was at least going to be a bit of steel there. There was going to be a disciplinarian who had got to grips with the left of the party and would whip them into shape. The problem is, I think the Tories imploded that little bit too quickly. He wasn't ready. He had no chance then of turning around to his backbenchers and going, we are spending rather a lot on welfare. Maybe we should think about cutting a little bit, because there are that many of them who are still in that position of going, we're a rich country, we can absolutely spend whatever we want on welfare, because that's very much what the people in my constituency want. And also, what is war? It's more of a sort of a hypothetical thing. You don't need to spend money on defence and education, that'll sort itself out. It'll all be absolutely fine. That's the sort of the attitude that they still have. Again, it's a party stuck very much 20 or 30 years behind where reality is. I don't think anybody thought it would end quite as quickly as it did for Starmer. Perhaps, with the benefit of hindsight and those fundamentals being as they are, we should have expected it to be quite difficult for him. But as we say, Burnham, he's not that kind of disciplinarian. He's not a particularly ruthless individual. He wasn't even very good at the coup the first time round. He wasn't able to get the seat that he wanted. Does anybody sort of sense that in any way, shape or form, he would be able to turn around in the way that Starmer did to anybody and say, I've got difficult decisions to make, and that the howling morass of Labour backbenchers would come up with anything other than, but we have to be kind to the people who are directly, going to vote for me. That's going to be the impact. And it's an interesting thing, given that, Reform UK had sort of hit a bit of a weird bump in the road. Their polling wasn't rising meteorically anymore. And I do suspect, actually, that this is going to end up giving them a fresh bit of impetus where they don't deserve any, because they're not ready for a general election. They're not ready for government. But my word, the Labour Party is really keen to give them as many opportunities as possible. Of course, then they'll just come up with another really bad candidate and we'll find ourselves in the same situation at the next by-election. But that's all part of the fun, right? That we just keep on making the same mistakes.
It is interesting. We think about the issues that are confronting the country, the amount of debt that we're in, the issue of borders, the geopolitical picture. The fact that Andy Burnham just starts banging on about devolution in the midst of all of that, I think just speaks to
and paying the waspy women. That's when I know he's backtracked on that, like he backtracks on a lot of the things, but that was the moment I thought, this guy is just
going
way too much. He's a people pleaser. That's true. He cannot say no to people.
People do say that, and the kind of the sort of insider reporting seems to indicate that absolutely. And he's also
a people pleaser because he wants to be liked, and he's going to be hated really soon. That's why I genuinely feel sorry for him, because he seems like a perfectly decent kind of guy. He's the kind of guy you'd be down at the pub with, and he started talking about politics, and everyone would go, "Can you shut up about politics?" But he talk about football and dismiss again. He seems a perfectly reasonable fella. He's got some heart-based socialist ideas, some of which he'll have to U-turn on, and a few he'll probably introduce with disastrous results. But by Christmas, he'll be hated. I'm pretty sure about
He's
that.
also just quite so flimsy, and I think that's because he's a product of devolution anyway. I mean, the Metro-Marities and whatever are made for a politician like Burnham, kind of also ran, couldn't quite make it at the top of government or the Labour Party. You send him out to, again, run a city, run a metropolitan area, and that's about his level, bless him. That works, but the fact that he now thinks that this is a model for the rest of the country, a publicly controlled bus network like the TfL model of socialism, as some people have called it.
We'll get £2 bus fares. That's as good as he's going to get under Burnham, I think.
And everything will sort itself out.
He'll paint the buses yellow. Starmer's great achievement was repainting the trains, some of them, and he'll be remembered for painting the buses.
This is going to be something else that we end up blaming Boris Johnson for, because Boris Johnson was able to go from being a mayor to prime minister, and so many other people thought, that's a route, I can do it. And now we're going to be subjected to even more people who are not as good as Boris Johnson. I think that's the thing that we have to take away from this. Actually, that was as good as it got. It's never going to get any better. Thanks again for something else, Boris, because, down the line, you have therefore given us Andy Burnham. It's not Sadiq Khan, could have been worse, but it's still not great.
There's still
God,
time.
imagine this. Imagine if Sadiq Khan's next. He could be the next one, couldn't he?
I did just say it can always get worse, didn't I? We should
that's
put
a
some money.
chilling
We should
thought.
put some money on Sadiq Khan becoming the next prime minister, so that it doesn't then happen, or at the very least, we get more money for him to tax. Because that's the first thing that'll happen, is that he will just take the money away. So got to just try to feather the nest a little bit. Just
I think
for
we're
the
going to miss
short
Keir
term.
Starmer a little bit. I think just
People will. People won't
Always
even remember
do.
why he went. It'd be a bit like Boris Johnson. In a year's time, people won't really remember why he
He's
went.
awful,
It'd be
but,
like, well, we had a heat wave, and he did, he'd done badly in the local elections, like all governments do, and he just resigned. I can't really remember why.
He's atrocious, and he probably had to go. But he's as bad as the rest of them. And also, he presided over the gayest government ever.
This does happen.
That was a big major achievement.
But this does happen, doesn't it?
Not just in this country, but in the world.
But this
The
does
gayest
happen.
parliament
It
of all
happens
time, anywhere.
Happens regularly. We
Certainly feel that way.
Frequently, we see John Major, for various reasons, rolled out as some sort of elder statesman. Everybody forgets what happened with John Major. Gordon Brown, frequently gone to as some sort of sage. Does anybody remember how it went for Gordon Brown? But even in the US, people look at George W. Bush and just go, forget about the wars. He's great, actually, compared to what time is wonderful at healing everybody's reputation. Still not Tony Blair. People are still really holding back for him. But most other people...
Trust. When will their time come, do you think?
I don't think it's been long enough. And I also don't think that she was around long enough for people to actually have got embedded hatred of the same variety. I think it's a visceral dislike, but there's an understanding that she was a half-wit. And you can't necessarily blame a half-wit if they are sort of lumped into that position that they should have never been in the first place. It's like you can't hate the village idiot if you give him a flaming torch and say, don't set fire to the barn, and he does it. We're kind of like, well, what else was he going to do? That's Liz Truss.
Do you want to mount a defence of your woman?
Not really.
I remember you tweeting many years ago, it's time for Truss and all that.
Time for Truss. Yeah. Well,
The world wasn't ready.
yeah. I mean, this is it. Why you shouldn't get your hopes up about people. I mean, Burnham's maybe the Labour Truss.
Some people have been saying that.
I mean, a lot of the kind of don't worry about the bond market stuff, and let us spend. They don't mind you borrowing so long as it's going to lead to growth and stuff.
At the very least, though, behind Truss, there was a semblance of an ideology that a lot of people I could see why it would work. Whereas behind Burnham, you just kind of sat there going, beyond you turning and giving more money to people, actually, what is there?
Manchesterism, mate.
Yeah,
Manchesterism.
It was
That's
always
an ideology.
That was always the
very
problem. Always the
carefully
thing
drawn out.
with Truss is you were kind of looking at it going, why did we have to hitch the wagon to her? Couldn't we have found somebody slightly better who understood how things work slightly better? The principles, not all of them, but a lot of them were sound. The person in question was just disastrous.
I think that's a fair comment. Yeah.
There we go. That's nice.
Should we talk a bit about the BBC, Chris? Evergreen topic, of course, but the hook for this is that you've written a piece calling for abolition of the licence fee, shock horror, but do you want to talk us through your argument here and why I think it's such a slam dunk at this point in time?
In most, if not all, of the BBC's World Cup games, at some point the commentator will say, and just a reminder that in order to enjoy watching this match, you need to pay your TV licence. And there's a little QR code, you can go on there if you're a licence fee evader. And they don't do this with any other programme. They don't do it with Panorama or Question Time. And that's because the people who are not paying the license fee, who secretly watch the BBC, even those who claim they never watch the BBC, will be watching the BBC when the World Cup's on. Or the largest proportion of them will be watching the World Cup. So it's targeted kind of threats, basically. Not even threats. I mean, I doubt anybody's actually clicking on the QR code, but it's targeted. It's a targeted message to several million people now. There's non-payment license fee has gone up from 5% about 10 years ago to 12.5% now. So that's 1 in 8 households who we think have a TV at least are not paying their TV license. Now, some of those, a growing number of maybe younger people in particular, genuinely won't watch any live broadcasts. And it's not just the BBC, it's any live broadcast, and they won't use the iPlayer. But not that many of them, especially when the World Cup's on. That number clearly is going up, and I think it's going to go up and up and up. And I think as a critical friend of the BBC...
That's how I'd sum you up.
Well, I think the BBC genuinely needs to be a bit more optimistic about getting people to voluntarily pay for its programming, right? It says that it's the world's greatest broadcaster and they're very proud of all this stuff, but they fight tooth and nail against the subscription model. They wouldn't mind it being paid out of tax, and they're quite happy with the license fee. But few people are paying the license fee. They're having to make £500 million worth of cuts. I think that the BBC should have the courage of convictions and introduce a Netflix-style subscription model, which would have the effect of stopping the people who are not currently paying the license fee, millions of people. That would stop them from watching it. But the beauty of it would be you'd make it global. I know they've already got the BritBox, but that's nowhere near as ambitious as it needs to be. You need to have the whole BBC archive eventually. A lot of this stuff will be already hived out to different networks and so on. So it'll take a while to pull everything onto the BBC website. But the aim should be to have everything the BBC's ever made only on the iPlayer, whatever you want to call it, the BBC, the Netflix equivalent of BBC. That's available all around the world. BritBox has currently got 4 million subscribers. BBC Commercial, which has the BritBox and other stuff, it makes £2 billion a year, which is a third of the BBC's total revenue. They could wrap that right up. Netflix has well over 300 million subscribers worldwide. Surely there are enough people just in the English-speaking world who are affectionate about the BBC, want to access that fantastic archive, let alone everything else. Only Fools and Horses and 40 Towers and Black and all these kind of things. You could get, that's what they need to be working towards. And I honestly think they could be making more money than they do now. At the moment, they're making less and less money because people are evading the license fee. There is very little chance of people being caught. If they do get caught, they only get fined roughly the equivalent of 1 year's license fee anyway. There are loads of like Reddit groups and influencers going, this is how you go about it. You can go to the TV licensing web pages and declare that you're no longer paying TV license because you supposedly don't watch live broadcasts. I think this is just going to spiral. I think we could very quickly get to a position of like 1 in 4, 1 in 3 households not paying for the license fee. At that point, the BBC's traditional objection to having a subscription model, which is basically, we don't think that many people would pay for it, which in itself is a justification for getting rid of the license fee, right? Even forcing people to pay for something they don't want. I think they're actually being too pessimistic on that. I think if push comes to shove, it's only £15 a month. I recently cancelled TNT Sports because it went from £31 to £34. And I only subscribed to TNT Sports because I wanted the TNT sports coverage because I like listening to Joe Johnson and I didn't like listening to John Virgo. Virgo then went and died, so I could cancel it. But but the point is, I was paying £34 basically for alternative commentary on the snooker. Now, without that, the
sort of thing you would spend your money on.
They've got other stuff. They had Champions League and stuff like that, but basically it's for that reason. They've also got the other snooker events that the BBC doesn't cover. But if the only way for me to watch snooker now, which it is, now that Eurosport haven't got any more, is to watch the BBC, I would pay my licence fee just to be able to watch the Triple Crown events on snooker. And other people will have something similar, World Cup, Wimbledon, whatever it may be, and not just sport either. Lots of people like, I don't know, Line of Duty or EastEnders or whatever. I think there's actually enough on the BBC. Well, not with, I'm not saying it's anywhere near as good as Netflix. It's not, but yeah, at the end of the day, either it's worth it or it's not. If most of the country genuinely don't think it's worth it, we shouldn't be forcing them to pay for it.
Sounds like a slam dunk, Benedict.
Yeah,
what do you think?
It's a tricky one because I agree with Chris. For a start, it's a legacy brand. It's known internationally and it is largely treading off past glories, if we're being honest. It used to be a gold standard. It's not anymore. And that I think is partly why they would never go for the movement towards a subscription model, because in order to get it up to that level would require rather a lot of hard work. And it would require a lot of things that are frankly bollocks to be cut, but that are pet projects or, particularly endearing to people who work at the BBC. A lot of money is wasted on stuff that nobody wants to watch or listen to on the radio, but people at the BBC want to make or listen to this sort of thing. I mean, you just have to listen to Radio 4 and wonder, to yourself, every now and then when you tune back in, who on earth is this for? It's a very small niche audience, and it's not even like it's a fantastic performance of Ibsen, and that there is a particularly highbrow audience listening to it, albeit small. It's rubbish. That's the thing. It's stuff that many people at the BBC listen to. Stunning and brave. Oh, absolutely magnificent. We're already doing groundbreaking stuff. And everybody else in the English-speaking world is sat there going, I'd rather pull my eyes out of my own head than actually watch this. Now, if you were to turn around and, in any other sort of walk of life, you'd say, that's a failing company. That's not going to last. You need to do something drastic, otherwise you're going to go under. That's why the BBC would absolutely abhor going towards some sort of subscription fee, because then they'd have to do that and they'd have to cut a lot of the things that they like doing for themselves. I agree with you. They should actually be made to do this, because this is in all of our interests, that what they produce is good content, is whatever it might be, sport, drama. There's a wealth of cultural resources in this country, be it historical, be it the literature, whatever it is you want. And there are lots of people who are actually very talented at writing. And they are all going to the US, ultimately, because that's where the money is, because it's a subscription-based service for people like Netflix, and so they'll pay them more. There's no reason why it should be that we are made to put up with the drudge that we get served. But we will, because they will resist it to the very last minute. And they will use, actually, some very noble reasons why, as one of the reasons why we shouldn't move towards a subscription-based service. That'll be things like the World Service. That'll be things like, attempting to provide an impartial news service, not just in the UK, but around the world. There is a lot of truth to that. But I don't think that means you need a a license fee. You can pay for that basic stuff out of general taxation and move the rest of it then to a subscription-based stuff. Yeah, I mean, there are ways round this. I think everybody's known that the model is out of date for some time, but the people within the organisation, a bit like the NHS up to a point, I suppose, those are the people that are going to hang on tooth and nail. And I suppose the main thing is, given that it is the state broadcaster, it has not quite the monopoly on broadcasting. What a bad idea this sort of thing is. But if anybody's going to listen to the BBC, they're going to be subject to lots of people going, that's a terrible idea. We shouldn't do this. Absolutely no. This will be the end of the BBC as you know it. So please write to your MP and say, no, don't do a subscription service. And about 17 people who still listen to Radio 4 will go, oh, absolutely, I will write to my MP, because those are the sort of people who write to their MPs. So yes, I agree. It would be wonderful to see, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, but my argument is they're going to have to, because of basically this black market element. We're seeing this in a lot of things we talk about on this show, where politicians are just having to change their mind about certain things because the black market is just out of control. And in this instance, the black market is people evading the license fee, which, as I say, is unbelievably easy to do. Prosecutions are dropped off a cliff. They don't even want to prosecute people because it's a bad look that, like, the number one reason for female imprisonment is not paying for the TV license, right? So there's
getting on the wrong side of the Director General, you get banged up.
A growing number of people are realizing this, and eventually you get to a tipping point where a lot of people are just law-abiding, right? Even if they don't really watch the BBC, it's the law to get a TV license. But as you get more and more people evading it, it reaches a critical mass at which you feel like you're a mug if you're still paying for it. And at that point, you just have a tipping point, and the whole thing could just crumble very quickly.
But it's interesting because this actually goes back to what we were saying about Andy Burnham, which is that stuff is just going to happen to him. He's not going to be able to do anything about this because we've not yet reached, who knows where that point is, the critical moment at which XYZ number of different institutions or systems will just stop working and the money will just run out at some point because nobody will lend to us and rates will just be appalling. And the tax take already isn't big enough to cover the benefits budget as it is, the welfare budget, rather. Businesses are already leaving. At some point, it does all go wrong. The question is, how much risk appetite do our politicians have? Do they understand what risk is? Would be a good start. But actually, how much are they prepared to sit on their hands and wait until the very last second, at which they then turn around to their backbenchers, to the public, and say, this isn't good. We're going to have to do something, and whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. I don't think we've reached that point yet.
Are you an accelerationist, man?
I think it's going to actually be quite slow, because the thing that they'll do in the meantime is they'll whack up the fines or whatever. They'll give you 10 years imprisonment or something like that. That would be the intermediary step, I'm sure.
The problem is, I do think that that the whole thing is speeding up, but the question is, how much further has it got to go? Are we even going particularly fast right now? It feels
do you want to go faster?
Yes, I'd like to speed run. I would like to speed run it, but I am quite a placid person by and large, so I'm not sure I would use the word accelerationist. I am impatient.
Impatient for disaster.
Yes.
I think on this front, as many others, it's going to have to get worse before it gets better. So that feels like
it does. It never gets
like
better, does it? But it always gets worse.
No, exactly. We'll find out. We'll hit rock bottom eventually. Should we talk about the gambling industry? Surprise, surprise.
Speaking of hitting rock bottom.
Yeah, speaking of hitting rock bottom, I'm potless at the moment. I need some help. The indications from Andy Burnham's camp is that he might be eyeing some kind of tax raid on the casino industry.
No, sort of the machines in particular.
So it's both the casinos and those sort of game, high street amusement arcades.
We normally call them amusement arcades, but now everyone's calling them adult gaming centres, because apparently that makes them sound slightly dodgier.
Adult gaming centres sound like you're going to go play backgammon or something, or like brick.
Or worse, I don't know, yeah. And it's also going to affect the bookies too. So it's any machine. So machines were not affected by last year's very, very large increases in gambling tax. So last year, the tax on the online gambling companies doubled, I think, to 50% of revenue as well. This is this mental stuff on top of corporation tax, all the other taxes, and this is just predictably enough wrecking the entire industry. Bookies got a sort of exemption from it, partially. They're still going to face some other tax rises, but not quite as bad as what the online sector's facing. And the amusement arcades, and indeed the bingo halls, anyone that has fruit machines, basically various forms of fruit machines, they didn't face a tax rise, but the same people who lobbied for last year's tax to now come back and say, well, actually, we need to increase machine gaming duty, as it's known. They're looking at maybe getting another £400-500 million a year from these companies. These companies, I don't think, have that kind of money lying around. You think of the average seaside arcade, they don't give me the impression that particularly flush with cash. I don't know, maybe not.
There's those little penny machines, and
I
you put a penny in and it pushes it out. Maybe
that's
how it's going to be. Yeah,
that's what got me into gambling.
See, that's right there. The Labour Party sat there going, "Look at all the cash they're sat on.
Look at all those
I've never seen
those
so high."
2 pence pieces. Have a slice of that action. They should pay it in 2p pieces. There you go, £400 million in 2 pennies.
Charts and treasury and all that.
So the only reason I really want to talk about this is it's just endless. It's the same people, and it's the same modus operandi, and they're always wrong. They always say, "Oh, this isn't going to have a negative effect. This isn't going to lead to like shop closures and people losing their jobs," and it always does. And it's obvious it's going to do that. And between you and me, that's probably what they want, right? They actually just want to wipe out the entire industry, and they're basically prohibitionists. This is not about gambling-related harm, but putting a tax on a gambling company does not have any conceivable way of affecting gambling-related harm. It's not like putting tax on a pack of cigarettes, where the price rise filters through to the consumer, and the consumer goes, "Oh, maybe the costs outweigh the benefits now." When you gamble, you just gamble however much you want, right? All the gambling industry can do when faced with a large tax rise is, if they're bookies, they can just make the odds worse, which eventually will just put them out of business, because people go on black market websites where they can get decent odds. Or essentially you just close down, because and this is what's happened. We had this with the fixed odds betting terminals. These campaigners, who are exactly the same people as been campaigning for the last 10 years and are campaigning for machine gaming duty, said, no, it's industry scaremongering to say all these bookies are going to close. We lost a third of the bookies within a few years of that one change coming in. This is going to have exactly the same effect, because it's just going to make it unprofitable. It's as simple as that. And we had last week, there was some House of Lords gambling committee, and they heard from various people who go, "Oh, we should put machine gaming duty up." And then the Social Market Foundation, which is behind all this stuff, funded by Derek Webb, who's a multimillionaire who's got his finger in every pie, created all these different front groups, Clean Up Gambling, Campaign to End Gambling Advertising, Stop the FOB Teas. It's all him. And the Social Market Foundation said, we've done a poll, and it turns out 43% are in favour of increasing machine gaming duty, which isn't even that good a result, is it? Considering like this is gambling, and you consider how miserable, misanthropic and ban-happy the British public are, they must have been pretty disappointed when they found that only 43% want to put a tax on fruit machines. But anyway, they acted like this was some great mandate.
Yeah.
and then this week, the Social Market Foundation produced a report saying, this is going to be great. This is free money lying on the floor, won't have any negative consequences. The betting industry all say it's going to be bad for business, but they're lying. It's just pathetic. We keep falling into this trap again and again and again. And Burnham apparently doesn't like these slot sheds, as some people call them. So, yeah, I mean, Burnham thinks, just like Rachel Reeves thought 2 years ago, he thinks there's money lying around on the floor and just waiting to be picked up, and the Tories just didn't see it. And it never works out like that, does it? Yeah. It's always terrible. And
it would never be that large amount of money either, surely, like as if this is
400 million quid.
But in terms of the sorts of, like when Rachel Reeves was going around kind of trying to scrape these things together, the amounts were essentially negligible in comparison to the things that she was trying to achieve. So I just don't know.
Because the government spends far too much money.
Yeah,
it makes hundreds of millions of pounds look like nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing,
it's just money down the back of
this particular brand of politician believes that somewhere in this country is a great big crock of gold, and that it's controlled by the super rich. Which one of the super rich, they're not sure. But they think if they tax all of them enough, eventually they'll find out who it is that has all of that money, and they'll go, aha, fantastic, we've finally cracked it. Okay, we've had to destroy a few things along the way, but it's got to be here somewhere, and somebody knows where it is. Because honestly, that's the only theory that I have, which is that they believe that somehow there is still one super rich person left, that hasn't left, and that he's just sat there holding on to his money, and that you just need to find out which one it is. They don't know.
Paul McCartney.
Yeah, probably. They'll come for him.
Now a Paul McCartney windfall tax.
Oh, well, it might not be a bad thing necessarily, but ultimately, I don't think that this actually is about money. I do think that it's using tax as a weapon for social engineering. Because there's only so much evidence that you can beat people around the head with and say this doesn't work before you just have to assume actually they do know what's going on and that they're just using this for other means.
Well, the politicians don't.
Yeah.
They haven't grasped that this is about wiping out the industry. Obviously, if you wipe out the industry, you don't get any tax. Right? At the moment, they're already getting 600 million from these machines.
Yeah.
It's not a small amount of money.
You'd have thought
that's probably going to go down.
You'd have thought that the party of the working man would understand people need to work for there to be wealth, but apparently they have forgotten that. But what I would like to know is, actually, for all of these people, be it gambling, be it alcohol, be it tobacco, be it gaming, being allowed on the internet, I would like to know a list of 5 pastimes that these people actually think are good, that are net social benefit. Just 5.
They would never tax.
Yeah, just need 5 that we
need a park run tax
that are healthy, that are sociable, that don't create vice or addiction or anything like that. Just give me 5 that we're all allowed to do.
Park run, listening to Radio 4, watching Arsenal.
Yeah,
reading The Guardian.
Two of those I think are likely long term to increase chances of self harm. So I'm going to put they. Yeah, no. Well, that's one, and Arsenal is the other. They've had a good season, and that's part of what gets you is that now for the next couple of years they'll be dreadful.
Are you an Arsenal fan? Right?
I'm a Liverpool fan.
But they'll always be scum no matter how much they wish. So that's the problem. But
you see, it might not be Arsenal fans who actually end up self-harming. It might be Tottenham fans.
No, exactly. Well, I narrowly escaped it.
Either way it hurts. But that's 3 that we've got, and beyond that, I'm not quite sure. Because sweets, they rot your teeth and they make you fat. The sun kills you.
We need to tax the sun.
Social media, new tobacco.
I will do the next best thing, block it out.
Yeah. Maybe that could be a new bonus round that we do, like some sort of
policies that they haven't come up with yet.
If you had to tax something that would actually make life a bit more
beneficial syntaxes.
It's sort of like the ban thing, but more moderate.
Exactly, yeah. Just got to fill time, with more authoritarian
We're not trying
suggestions.
to ban this, we're just putting a Pagovian tax on it.
Exactly, we just need to rebalance the harms that are implicit in all of this. But it is interesting, Chris, because whenever we talk about gambling on this show, oftentimes, not in this case, it's the one issue that even some of our guests might have a bit more trouble getting on board with.
Yeah.
We're naming no names. Is that part of the problem? It's just the most low status of all the vices, or it seems that way.
It is, and that's why they're going after the slot sheds. Even the name is kind of
no one wants to be caught in a slot shed, do they?
Slot shed.
It's the place that they locked the Liverpool manager when the season was done. For the end of the season,
very good.
It's not a happy place.
The place I mean, like Admiral and places.
Yes. You see them on High Street.
Been there.
Yeah,
it's like bookies have always been there, but I guess people just pay more attention to them now. There's no more than there used to be. Dawn Butler's going around constituency saying, "Look, there's one here. Well, nationally, there's no more than there used to be, and there's far fewer bookies than there used to be. But yeah, I think the arcade in particular is considered to be very down market, and they're exploiting the vulnerable, they're exploiting the poor and all this stuff. It's like, why don't the gambling industry exploit the rich? You'd think there'd be more money in that, wouldn't you? But they're always accused of like
a lot less hassle.
setting up shop in
Just
poor
imagine
areas.
that, going to the Grand National, standing outside with the placards going, this is exploiting the super rich, and you shouldn't be exploiting them, the taxpayer should be. Rachel Reeves should be allowed to do it, but not the rest of you.
I use the phrase slot shaming before.
Slot
I think
shaming,
you both
that's-
missed it. I just like
that's
to flag
very
up
good.
that I just said that.
Yeah. End slot shaming. We'll work that into the head title somehow. Should we turn to our two final questions that we asked all of our guests, Benedict? I think this particular question is a new one since last time you were on, which is, do you have a theory?
I've got a theory.
That requires thought. So, I mean, there is a slightly topical one. I mean, this is part of the great discourse between people in the United States and Europe, and somehow by extension that includes us, because we are in the middle of a heat wave, supposedly. It's coming back, and it's just emerged. Everybody's realised that we don't have a lot of air conditioning in the UK. Now, there are lots of reasons for that, very good reasons why historically we don't have that.
Cold country.
Yeah, we are being told now that as everything warms up, that air conditioning is not in fact the solution, that it's not a good thing, that in fact it contributes to the climate crisis. And my theory is that this is a very deliberate line that's being spun, and it's purely so that we all get more hot and therefore more apocalyptic and are more prepared to buy into the doomsday scenario. If we're not allowed the aircon, we can't be cooled down. So what are we going to do? We're going to get a lot more hot and bothered, and then when the lunatics turn around and go, we're going to have to turn off the electricity, we're going to have to do everything like that. Eventually we'll all get to a point where we'll go, just do anything, just make it stop, just make it cooler, do whatever you want, just please, for the love of God, just let us have a little bit of respite. And then they'll all be sat there going, excellent, now we can have our strange communist revolution, because somehow that's going to be the thing that stops things getting hotter, not technology that makes the room get cooler. So that's my theory, which is...
It's all on purpose.
The response, that is my response. The backlash against aircon is nothing to do with the fact that we all live in relatively older buildings with thick walls, and that it's technically very difficult, and that in the last couple of years it's only just got hot enough for it to be worthwhile. None of those practical reasons apply. It is purely because the lunatics that believe that the planet is cooking would like us all to cook as well. That's what it is.
That makes a lot of sense. I understand. I don't know if this is true, whether there's a gammony men told me in clubs. I think I've read it somewhere. The James Hansen, is he the guy? Was he the big global warming guy in America in the 80s? One of these people. They had a big report launch in the summer of like 1988 or something like that. And before they got all the media in for this launch, he closed all the windows and turned all the radiators up.
No, I remember seeing that somewhere.
I kind of respect the villainy of it, to be fair.
Yeah.
I do respect it. Like,
It's very
he's
cackling.
properly going for it here.
Yeah,
But,
cackling while sort of stroking a cat. It has that sort of thing on. Watch them cook.
Anything you want to ban?
You are a dictator.
Manchester.
Manchester.
I was unaware of the
They're
existence.
getting a bit too big
Just
for their
'cause you're
boots.
in Liverpool.
I was just unaware of its existence until Andy Burnham sort of appeared, and I thought, this sounds interesting.
He is
And
from
now,
the
a couple
north.
Of weeks later, couple of weeks later, I've had enough of it. I think we've had enough of Manchester, frankly, and we can do without it. He's not actually. This is a thing, isn't it? Because Andy Burnham is doing the whole shtick of going, look at me, I am from Manchester, I'm the everyman, all that sort of thing. But is he even a Scouser? Because this then borders onto the questions of intercommunal rivalries within Liverpool. In much the same way as a Cockney is not just somebody from London, it's from a certain part. He's from Aintree. So some Scousers would consider that a wool. He's not necessarily a Scouser. So there is a question over his actual background. And, I think that this is the moment for our kind of birth certificate moment, a bit like Barack Obama. Actually, where is he from?
He's
You're a Burnham
Manchester.
Bertha.
Yeah, I'm a Burnham Bertha. He supports Everton, so that should actually exclude him from, that's bad judgment straight off the bat. You should be able to become 21 and realise this was not a good hand that I've been dealt. I should change this. But no, he's stuck with that. Just the whole thing about, and this is the problem, isn't it? Because then the media circuit in London remembers that Manchester exists, and they're like, that was cool once upon a time, let's make that cool again. And it's not. It's 20, 30 years. And, you touched upon Morrissey, earlier. And we're going to get it as well with Oasis as well. He's going to try and lean into that. And the Oasis, the Gallagher brothers are going to be like, absolutely not. You're a tosser, you're this, that, and the other. So that's not going to end well either. But I'm already sick to the back teeth. There are more places in the north, places in the northwest than Manchester.
Yeah,
and
they all hate each other. This is the thing.
Yeah,
people down here just talk about the north, the king of the north, and all this rubbish. People in Liverpool hate people from Manchester, generally speaking, let alone people from Leeds. I mean, most of it's football related, but a lot of things are football related in the north. Yeah, and people in Newcastle couldn't care less about Manchester, or people in York or whatever. And it's just like it's not some big sort of unified area, the north, which has even in a kind of metaphorical sense has a king. It's a warring federation. People who drive 30 miles east or west to beat each other up.
Was it John Cooper Clarke who said the poem about Oldham? He said, well, I've never been there. Why would I want to? Everything I want's in the other direction. And I thought, actually, that sums up the north quite well. Wherever it is you're from, I don't necessarily need to go there. That's about all I know about it.
Yeah. People hating the north. People, it's not even one city against each other. One half of the city hate the other half of the city. Like, bastards. Hey, in Aintree.
On that note, ban Manchester, don't slot shame, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Last Orders. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and click the bell so you never miss another spiked video. If you're listening to this on your podcast app, make sure you subscribe there and give us a glowing 5-star review. And if you'd like to get in touch with your questions or band suggestions, email us at lastorders@spiked-online.com.